Erica, thank you so much for being with us here on the No Like Trust Pod. It's so great to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my God. So cool. So cool. So I'm super excited to talk to you today because you have a very unique brand voice. And February is all about brand voice here on the No Like Trust Pod. And so I want to talk, I want to understand from you. Well, first of all, I will just give some context. Your voice is no nonsense, extremely direct. Some people might be turned off by it.
Yes.
And I want to know, has it always been your brand voice, or is it something that you learned to develop over time?
Yeah. It's definitely developed over time. I think for all of us, no matter what your brand voice is, the more you show up, the more you create content, the more you build your business. I think we all as individuals even need to take some time to get in touch with who we are and what our voice is. So 100%, I have done that too. I will, though, say, however, that I remember from the time I was a very little girl that I just always thought a little bit differently than everyone else. I had different solutions to problems. I remember being put in groups in elementary school and, being tasked with solving a problem. And everyone in my group wanted to do it one way, and I had a different idea. And I also very much remember that when I was a kid, that was something that really embarrassed me. I
Oh,
I quickly sort of figured out that I didn't necessarily want to be the one with the different ideas. I didn't want to stand out like that. It felt overwhelming to me. However, I eventually realized, I don't know when, maybe college, high school, around then, that this was like a superpower of mine. And not everybody could come up with these like really unique, innovative ideas like I could. And that instead of hiding them, I should bring them out to the forefront. And I think that really was the beginning of me kind of developing my personal brand and like, in a way, giving myself permission to be who I am, no matter who that is. And
yeah.
even though it often still to this day feels very different than what everyone else is doing, I have just trained myself to now get comfortable with that. I've replaced that uncomfortableness with this kind of inner knowing and comfort that took me a while to really kind of figure out. But that's kind of how my brand developed over a period of many, many years.
So I love that. So my next question would be, or I guess a follow-up question would be, so there's a level of, I think all of us as, midlife women come into this feeling of confidence and I don't give an F about what people think about my personality. I'm just going to be who I am, right? Or what I
Yes.
think or what my opinion is. So I think that's always part of it for us women. I'm trying to relate here. Um, but there's this other question I have about, I would assume, and you tell me if I'm wrong, like in your personal life, did you compartmentalize this and say, okay, with my friends, with my family, with my partner, this is just who I am. But then when I go out into the business world, I'm a different person. And was that just not working for you? Or did you ever make that connection?
I I have always been somebody that innovation is just sort of one of my core tenets in life, in business. It's just always something that's really front and center for me. And I think as a result, I'm always the one to try the new platform, to get on social media before anyone else does, because there's this feeling of like, I don't want to miss out and I have to figure this thing out. So I will say that way before it was a thing to kind of combine your personal life and your business, I was just doing that. I almost feel like I couldn't help myself. It wasn't necessarily a strategic decision from the beginning, I will say. It kind of just happened. However, once it did, I realized, oh, this is actually a pretty fabulous unlock to building my community and
Yeah.
connecting me with the right people. So I was not compartmentalizing at a time that everybody else was. And
Yeah.
that was the weird thing. And that was the thing I think that allowed me to kind of stand out and build my audience at a time where everybody else was just doing that compartmentalizing thing and saying things like, I'm boring. Like, people don't care about what I'm doing. I'm just going to stick to the business stuff. And again, if that is your choice and that is intentional, that's totally fine. I've just never really done it that way.
Yeah. So you're a total pioneer, and I love that. You really are. You really are. When it comes to, blending your personality with your business personality, just like you're one holistic being. And you're really pioneering that. I love that. So one of the biggest challenges that my clients have is they just don't know how to show up online, right? And I say this in every venue that I'm a part of, that there are 1.5 million real estate agents in the United States, and they all look and sound the same. So for the
Yeah.
real estate agent out there who doesn't know how to show up, doesn't understand what brand voice is, or what their brand voice is, how would you what advice would you have to help them to show up authentically, whether it's online or in person?
Yeah. Well, I think that the first thing I would recommend is that we switch around like the thinking and the framework around this, because I know, just because I've worked with many, many clients, both in the real estate industry and not, that this could feel overwhelming. Trying to figure this out and connect with who I am, and maybe who I am people aren't interested in, and maybe I'm boring, and maybe I'm just not cut out for this. And I like to use this phrase, your brain is a dick. And what I mean by that is that our brains just want to keep us safe. And the way to do that is to just keep us doing exactly what we've been doing, even if what we've been doing is not really what we want to do. That is just safe and easy for our own brains. And so when we get into this phase, either we're starting our business or we're feeling like we want to pivot, or we really want to mix things up and create some momentum, it can feel really overwhelming and like a problem that needs to be solved. And I like to look at this as like a fun challenge, like really figuring out a way that feels so fun and exciting for you to show up. I mean, I think most of us realize like social media is here to stay. And
Mhm.
so it is something that we need to figure out. And if every time we have to show up and connect with our audience and come up with ideas, it feels overwhelming and like we can't breathe,
Yeah.
it's going to be really hard to do that consistently. So I just like to remind people that there is a formula out there. All of our formulas are different. But your challenge is to figure out the way that you like to show up in your business, in the world, on social media, to your email list,
Yeah.
that feels just like so over the top fun for you.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting there right now thinking like, there's no possible way, like that way doesn't exist for me, I'm going to lovingly call you out and say that that is BS. There is a way. It's just a matter of you really getting into that mindset of being experimental,
Yes.
trying things out, and doing it from a place of almost giving yourself permission. Like, I would say for 30 days, for the next 30 days, stop looking at the number of comments and the number of followers and the number of people joining your email list, and just allow yourself to play online on social media and figure out the things that you just, for whatever reason, really love to do.
Yeah.
And then once you do that, just do that again and again, over and over, and don't feel that pressure of constantly needing to reinvent yourself and try something new. Because what
Yeah.
happens is, when you give yourself permission to show up online in a way that is really resonant and feels good for you and represents who you are, you no longer feel a need to reinvent yourself every day.
Exactly. That is so resonating with me. I was having a conversation yesterday with someone who asked me what the importance of video was in your marketing. And I said, well, the answer you want me to give you is that video is very important, especially short form video, because that's what's, creating all the momentum these days. But my answer is that video is just not something that I feel great about. I can sit here on a video conference with you, Erica, and feel super comfortable. I can stand in front of 1,000 people on stage and feel really good. But for me to get one-on-one with my iPhone and just start talking, it's just really uncomfortable for me. And so my thing is podcasting and getting on stage. Like that for me, that's where I feel good in my skin. That is where I feel like my energy is. That's where I feel like I can get excited. That's where I feel like I'm aligned in my desire to have an impact in the world. Right. And
Mhm.
so I think what you're saying is just that, like, find what it is that brings you the greatest joy and lean into that so that you're not having, like you say, to reinvent yourself all of the time. I love that.
Yeah. And what I would say too is that in that example you just gave, some people might think like, okay, well, I guess I just don't need to do short form video then, because that's not really my thing. But what I would also say is that you're able to then take those specific things. And like I would say to you, which I'm sure you're doing all the time, you can use clips from
Yes,
these podcast interviews, and that can be your short form video.
exactly.
Or I want to hear your voiceovers.
Yes,
You taking video of other
yes,
things, and you don't need to show me your face. Pretend like it's a podcast, do
yes,
something a little differently, and create short form video
yes,
that's like a mini podcast for you. So there's
yes.
always ways around things. And even coming to those kind of realizations of what works for you and doesn't, remember, you can then, spin that into different things that you can still do in your business in your own way.
Yes. I'm going to call you a creative problem solver because
Thank you.
yes, I mean that
Yeah.
I'm writing that down because it's so true. And our amazing editor, Jesse, who is on the back end right now, he does 3 or 4 reels for me for every single podcast that I do. And so that's how we put it out there in short form. So yes, I love that idea. Okay, so let's talk about, you have a philosophy around making sure that in business you don't resemble others, which is like right up my alley. I
Yeah.
just can't wait to talk about this. So what steps do you think people need to take to distinguish themselves online?
Yeah. Well, there's so many different ways to do this. I wish there was just like one 10-step checklist that I could give everyone, because I just would sell it and make $1 billion. But there really are so many different ways to do this. So, I mean, I'll just give you a few examples of things that I do. I will say before I do that, I've now been in business for, I think, almost 7 years online, which I almost want to like use that as dog years when you have an online business and you're
Yeah.
showing up online. 1 year is not 1 year. It feels like 7 years. Um, but I have learned so much. And after spending lots of money on coaches, masterminds, programs, courses, all of it, the place that I have come to is going all in on making yourself a category of one, being the
Love it.
standout person in your industry is honestly the only thing I would tell you to worry about or focus on. Because if you can master that, none of that other stuff matters, or you'll just figure it out along the way. So again, I would say that this formula is different for everyone, depending on the things that you love to do and, that light you up. But in my own business, there are certain things like my brand does have a very specific look. And I really started from a place of saying to myself, I don't want regular headshots. Like photography is a really big thing for me. Sure, maybe I have one kind of regular, but I don't even have that. I approach my photo shoots as if I was an editorial director at a magazine. That alone, you don't even need to see my photos. You can probably immediately think to yourself, I don't even know what these pictures look like. And I bet this chick stands out from the crowd in her
Mhm.
industry. And
Mhm.
I do. And for me, photography is so much fun. Like finding a photographer that I really vibe with and thinking through what I want my shoot to be. And I love also marketing and branding as well. I used to, back in my corporate days, I was a director of marketing, handled branding events, all of that sort of stuff. And so that's something that is really fun for me. And so that the photography aspect is something I have really leaned into. I also really try. This is the thing that I always say to myself when I'm thinking of offers or different things that, I might want to sell and put out into the world. I like to give the people what they want. And so, what I mean by that is, I often notice, and this is across industries, it honestly doesn't matter what industry you're in, but you can maybe help me with the real estate industry. There are often things that people are asking you for or asking you to do all the time.
Mm.
And you and everybody else are just saying no. No, sorry, I don't do that. I can't do that. Here's an example. 10 years ago, website designers would get hired, and then the person that hired them would say, "Oh, do you do copy? Do you copyright?" And they would always just say, "No, sorry, I just do the web design." Maybe they'd be able to refer you to somebody else. Maybe eventually they like build a partnership with somebody. And if that person was available, they could put you in touch with them. But what I started to see and what I would do if I was a web designer is say, okay, everybody is asking me about copywriting. Everybody needs copywriting. I'm not a copywriter, but I'll hire somebody who I work with all the time and is just there to work with my clients and provide this copywriting. And I will offer that up as a package. So
Yes.
when everybody else is saying, no, sorry, I don't do that, I figure out a way to do it. And figuring out a way to do it doesn't mean you have to do it. It's
Yeah.
again, getting really creative and figuring out how to offer this to your client. I
Yeah.
used to be an interior designer. I don't know if this is still a thing because I know staging has become really popular, but if you knew that you could hire me as your real estate agent and staging was included, and I'm an award-winning interior designer, so I'm going to stage the hell out of your place. I might even do something like, you don't even need to pay me now. We'll agree on a fee. And then once we sell your house, you can pay me for this. So you don't even have to lay out any money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is something that I could do. So really just like tapping into what your clients want, what they are asking for, and
Yeah.
how you could figure out a way to give it to them.
Yeah. I think you gave some great examples. And I think, the first way to start figuring out what those probably creative, solutions are is just start writing down those questions that you get
Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
Everybody should have a notebook with them at all times, or, you, whether you use your Evernote, whatever your note taking of, product of choice is, write down the questions that you get all the time, because then you can start to figure out ways to problem solve those pain points for your clients. I love that.
Yes. And
Um,
if you're brand new, by the way, go on to Reddit, go on to other people's Instagram accounts who you follow, who are doing what you want to do and have a business like you want to build, and see what that person's community is asking them all the time.
yeah, great
Like there's
idea.
no excuses here. You can figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah. Reddit is a great thing to do, to just kind of understand what people are asking for. Let's talk about content creation. So what do you think is the secret to producing engaging? I mean, you have a huge following on social media. You get huge engagement. What's the secret to creating engaging content?
Again, this is unfortunately a different formula for everyone, but I think honestly the key for me is, I probably 5 years or so ago decided that I was joining the Zero F's Club.
The
And what
Zero
I
F's Club. Tell us
yeah,
what the Zero F's Club is, Erica.
this is the most exclusive club you will ever get into. Most people are not even at the stage where they could fill out an application. And I've named myself president, so I'm now able to see all of the applications. But it's getting yourself to a place where you are showing up in your business, you are showing up online in a way that it does not matter to you what Angry Mom 22 in Cleveland, Ohio thinks of your take on whatever it is that you're talking about. You're okay with people seeing you and judging you and coming up with their own opinions about you. And as long as you're showing up every day in a way that feels good for you, in a way that is serving your community and giving people what they need, None of this other stuff over here matters.
Yeah.
Getting yourself into this club and figuring that out. And I will say, this isn't just like a decision and you're done. This takes years and years of practice. But it really is the key to, I have found, creating content that connects you with your community, allows you to show up exactly as you are, and really just does the work of building the relationships that we all want to build with the
Yeah.
people who are paying attention to us, whether that's 10 people or 10,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So,
that's, it goes back to your earlier challenge to our community, which is take
yeah,
30 days and stop looking at your followers, stop looking at your likes, stop looking at your comments, and really just start to play and see what feels good. Not even what resonates, but
yeah,
what feels good. Because chances are when you feel aligned, people are starting to pay attention. I really feel that.
yeah, 100%. I really do think that's like the number one key to everything. The other thing, though, that I will say, and this is just always the way I've been, is I really like to give it all away, all of it. There are so many people I see, and this has changed a bit, but there's so many people I see that are afraid to give too much away because then
Mhm.
what do they need me for? They're not going to hire me. I have found the opposite to be true. When I was working as an interior designer, I was not liked by many of the other interior designers because I was always telling you where I got things, how I found this, what resource I was using. And I'll say this, and I'm going to sound a little bit like an asshole, but it's because I was coming from this place of, let me give as much information as I possibly can to people so that they could take some action. And even if I do that, I could tell you where I got every single solitary thing in my house and give you a link. And you probably still wouldn't be able to put it together in the way that I did because
Yeah.
it's me and we each have our own style and our own
Yes.
way of doing things. And so, what I have found again and again is giving it all away helps people trust you
Yeah.
so much more quickly. And even from like a karma POV, the truth of the matter is, if you start to build a larger community on social media, 99% of the people in that community are never going to hire you, work with you, or take things to
Yeah.
that next level. And that's okay because the 1% who are still potentially going to make you millions of dollars. But I just love this idea that I'm leaving everyone else in my community. I'm always giving them like a little present with
Yeah.
every post that I come up with, every time I
Yes.
show up, every time I'm there in stories. I want to be there for the people who are ready to take that next step and take some action. And so I am just always kind of approaching my social media that way.
I really appreciate that. Because and I love what you said about, I can give you everything, but you're still not going to be able to put it together the way I would. And that speaks to the experience.
Yes.
And the vision that you have. And that's not something that ChatGPT can give you. You
No.
know, that's not something that, yes, you can DIY anything. And that's totally okay to do,
Yeah.
150% okay to do. Um, but if you're looking for something different, if you're looking for an experience, if you're looking for advice, guidance, um, a trusted advisor, whatever it might be, then you are going to lean into somebody like Erica. You are going to lean into, a market expert when it comes to selling your house. You are going to lean into a brand strategist, whatever it might be that you're looking for. It's all, we talk about this too a lot. Like, whatever your zone of genius is, thrive in it.
Yes.
Thrive in it. And then outsource everything else.
Yes.
Don't try to be all things to all people. Don't try to do all the things because you won't, you're going to end up being burnt out, and at the end of the day, you're not going to get it done really at the best of your ability. And so I
Yeah.
think that's what you're speaking to. Like, I love give a present with every post. I
Yes.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that you said that. All right, let's talk about how to define your brand voice. What do you think are the most common challenges that entrepreneurs have when they're trying to create their own brand voice.
Yeah. I mean, the number one thing again is really getting caught in your head.
Yeah.
And, instead of, for me, I'm always about taking imperfect action. So even though my tendency is to plan and research and do all of that, I always want to be on the road at least toward whatever my goal is and where it is that I'm going. And even if it's taking a teeny tiny step, that is where I want to be. So staying stuck in your head, spinning out over, are people going to like this? Or maybe I should do it that way. Or this reel didn't get as many. It's never going to get you where you want to be. Because
Yeah.
again, our brains, it doesn't make sense that it would be doing this, but in a way, they're almost like working against us when we really want to be taking these big steps forward or doing different things. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of mindset stuff that's going on. I know that is not sexy. I know that's not like people want to learn how to do the email funnel and the sequence and the timing and all of that. But the truth of the matter is, you could sit down for an hour with Oprah and find out all of the things that she's doing in her business and get all of the best tips and tricks. If your mindset is not right, none of that is going to work or matter. So
Yeah.
again, it really is this thing where it doesn't feel necessarily as fun to
Yeah.
spend time on fixing that or really kind of tuning into what sort of mindset blocks you have going on so you can start working on it. But I have talked to, at this point, hundreds of business owners, some of them already making millions upon millions of dollars. And not a single solitary one of them had zero mindset hangups.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
not a one. So I just find in the realm of social media and branding, this is something that comes up for
Yeah.
so many people. And again, the only way through it is through it. You have
Yeah.
to practice, you have to experiment, you have to let yourself fail
Yeah.
sometimes. It's not like every post I put out there is viral.
Yeah.
That happens rarely. 99% of my posts are not viral.
Yeah.
So it's really, again, getting yourself focused on, when I talk about this idea of a present too, it's like, what is the action that you want if everything is going perfectly and ideal and you are doing your social media posts and I am seeing it as a potential client of yours? What do you want me to do?
Yeah. Yep.
And is the doing of that thing dead freaking easy? If it's you need more clients and you want people to hire you to work with you with whatever real estate situation they have going on, is it dead easy for me to figure out how to do that?
Yeah.
Because this sounds like a very simple question. Most of the people that I work with have not figured this out and just don't realize that people have to jump through hoops and figure things out and reach out this way and click over here and 4 clicks in. It's just sometimes a matter of sharing, talking about, and doing all of the things that make it really easy for people to work with you.
Yeah. Click, connect. Yes.
Yes.
For sure. For sure. Erica, I want to talk about, you have a new course coming out. It's called CEO Millionaire.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Well, this is basically a money mindset makeover course. It's all of the things that we've been talking about a little bit here that really help you as a business owner overcome all of these dick brain things that tend to happen when the funny thing is a lot of this stuff comes up when things are going well too.
Yeah.
We always think about like, oh, what am I, how am I going to find a client and how am I going to make money? And then that stuff starts to happen and all this other stuff comes up. Like we think we've climbed to the top of the mountain. And the truth is you're never going to get to the top of the mountain. So I just really wanted to, after all of these years on my own, kind of doing the mindset work and going through training and, learning all of the things that I've learned about how our brains scientifically work. I think one of the things that I'm really gifted at is coming up with easy ways to explain that to people that aren't going into like scientific explanations of, what's going on in our brain. Hence my phrase, your brain is a dick. That unexpectedly, I said it one day on Instagram and the reaction was insane. And to this day, I think I probably started talking about it 5 years ago. Every single day, I have people in my DM saying, oh, my brain was being such a dick today. Here's what happened. So that's another little side tip, by the way. If you can get your audience and your community to use your catchphrases in their own lives, the connection there is just insane.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this course is really all about giving you the little tips and tricks and things that have really worked for me as I've built my business and teaching you how to do it too. I will say this looks nothing like any other online course I've ever seen. We shot it like a Netflix TV show. The videos are all less than 10 minutes. You can binge the whole thing in an hour and a half. And I have had so many people say, I can't tell you how much money I've spent on courses. This is the first course I've actually ever finished.
Wow.
It
Awesome.
doesn't feel overwhelming. It's not homework. It's really the sort of thing that, and we have, audios and videos and all of that, but this mindset work, this is just the last thing I'll say about it too. Even if you're doing this on your own, it's not a one and done thing. It really is worth your time and attention as you continue in your business and you continue to grow to always be doing some sort of like brain hygiene work for yourself in whatever way, that looks best for you. If you, want to listen to inspiring podcasts, if you want to do meditation, if you're not woo like that and you want to learn from a science point of view how things work, it's just a thing that I think will be the best investment for yourself as you kind of grow your business and get more and more successful, because it's really the key to everything. And so I just wanted to create something that was like fun and easy and breezy and really gave you some tangible things to do in order to work on your dick brain.
And how do people find it?
People find it by going to any of my social media accounts, and I have a direct link to it. So that's something that you can do. We also have a great little freebie that if you're kind of curious about this, but you're not necessarily ready to jump into the pool, we have a freebie that teaches you how to go on CEO millionaire dates. And this is one of the things that I teach in my course. And it's funny because with Valentine's Day, around the corner, this is something that's front and center in my mind. But this is a solo date that you take yourself on. And it's basically allowing you to kind of show up in the world and tell the universe and tell your brain that this is who you are. This is what you're working toward. And there's so many different ways to do it. You can go to a vibey coffee shop. You can do it at home and, have a spa day. But I basically break down for you all the different things that you should be doing on the CEO millionaire date with yourself. And I go on one at least once a month, sometimes more than once a month.
Awesome.
But I've really made this a part of my everyday to-dos as a business owner. So
awesome.
Really great too, which you also can grab in my bio.
Great. And so we'll make sure to have the links to the freebie and the CEO Millionaire course in the show notes here. So as we start to wrap up, Erica, what are 3 things you'd like to leave our community with?
3 things I'd like to leave your community with. Well, I guess the first one is the knowing that even if you are in a place right now where you feel like you haven't figured out your personal brand, you haven't mastered any of this mindset stuff, if you're feeling like, okay, this chick has talked about a lot of things and I don't think I'm good at any of them right now. Oh, what am I going to do? That all of this can be figured out. None of this is a problem. And in fact, the most important thing is the awareness that it's something that you need to deal with. So I would say no matter where you are in this process, it's not a problem. You absolutely can figure this out. And figuring it out is just going to be so incredibly worthwhile to you.
Awesome.
The second thing I would say too is this is a weird one, but I have found over the past couple of years that even though I've been all in on building my business and making more money and building my community and doing all of that, I have found that intentionally taking time to do something fun, not related at all to my business, a fun hobby. I love needlepoint. I'm TV obsessed. I actually recently started watching Murder, She Wrote, and I am so obsessed with the series from 1984, which I
Love that.
never watched before. So yeah, so that is something that I would also say. And then lastly, I think it would be my point of really remembering this idea of moving forward and taking action no matter what, even if it's tiny little things. If you could always just visualize being on that road and moving toward whatever your goal is, rather than like pulled over on the side of the street and just sitting there for days at a time, which so many of us have been there, but really getting intentional and forcing yourself, even when it's uncomfortable and it's scary and you don't want to do it, to take those little actions. I promise you it's going to make all the difference in the world.
Awesome. I love it. All right, Erica, finish this sentence. Know, like, trust is.
Know, like, trust is the key to building a very connected ride or die community. And I think the best way to do that is really doing this work and figuring out how you want to show up and what that looks like. You said when you were introducing me in the beginning that I have a personality and I show up online in a way that turns some people off. And that is true, and that is intentional. I am not for everyone, and none of us are. And so I want to be really intentional about calling in my people that know, like, and trust me, that don't mind that I curse, that don't mind that I make all these like silly pop culture references or talk about my latest Murder, She Wrote episode. Those are my people.
Yes, I love that. So, so important. Erica, how do people find you?
So people can find me on Instagram and on TikTok, and it's just my first name and my last name. So ERICAREITMAN. That's where I like to hang out the most, and I would love to connect with anyone who's hanging out with us now.
Awesome. Oh my God. Thank you so, so much. This has been incredibly valuable, high energy. I just absolutely have loved every second with you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been lovely. So, and thank you all for joining us. And if you love what we're doing here on the No Like Trust podcast, I would highly recommend you share it with a friend, subscribe, give us a 5-star review. Anything you can do would be super helpful and super appreciated. And make sure you're following Erica. She's at Erica Reitman on Instagram and TikTok. She is also at ericareitman.com. And I'll make sure to have all the links to her latest course and her freebies in the show notes. And I think that is it for today. Ciao for now, everyone. Have a great day.